Imagine waking up one day to find out you've been given total legal protection. Sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you this isn't about earthly laws, but something much bigger? Something that could change your entire life? Picture this. You're going about your day, maybe feeling a bit down on yourself, thinking about all the things you've done wrong or the ways you don't measure up. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, you get this message. It says you're free from all that guilt, all that self-judgment, all those heavy feelings weighing you down. It's like you've been given a clean slate, a fresh start, no questions asked. That's what we're talking about today, a kind of spiritual legal immunity. It's not about getting away with breaking laws or doing bad things. No, it's much more powerful than that. It's about breaking free from the invisible chains we've put on ourselves, the ones that hold us back and keep us feeling small. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds nice, but what does it really mean? How can I be immune from my own thoughts and feelings? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to unpack this idea of spiritual legal immunity, and by the time we're done, you might just see yourself and your life in a whole new light. But here's the thing, this isn't just some fun idea to think about. This is real, and it has the power to completely change how you live your life. If you don't understand this spiritual legal immunity, you might miss out on the freedom and peace it can bring to your life. You might keep living with that heavy feeling of not being good enough, of always falling short. And let me tell you, that's no way to live. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something because you were afraid of failing? How often have you beaten yourself up over a mistake, replaying it over and over in your mind? That's what happens when we don't know about this immunity we have. We become our own worst critics, our own harshest judges. We lock ourselves in a prison of our own making, and we throw away the key. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's why understanding this spiritual legal immunity is so important. It's like being handed the key to that prison cell. It's like someone telling you, hey, you don't have to stay in there anymore. You're free to go. And when you step out of that cell, when you embrace this immunity, that's when things really start to change. You start to see opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. You start to feel lighter, freer, more able to be yourself. You stop worrying so much about what others think or about measuring up to some impossible standard. You start to live your life, really live it, instead of just going through the motions. That's what's at stake here. That's why it's so crucial to understand and embrace this concept of spiritual legal immunity. Because without it, you might keep living a life that's smaller than what you're capable of. You might keep holding yourself back, keep punishing yourself for things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But with this understanding, the sky's the limit. You're free to be who you really are, to pursue your dreams without that nagging voice of self-doubt holding you back. You're free to love yourself, to forgive yourself, to give yourself the same kindness and understanding you'd give to a good friend. So, are you ready to learn more about this life-changing concept? Are you ready to claim your spiritual legal immunity and start living a freer, happier life? Great, because that's exactly what we're going to explore today. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into what this spiritual legal immunity really means. We're going to look at where it comes from, why it matters, and most importantly, how you can start using it in your own life right away. We'll start by breaking down this big idea into smaller, easier to understand pieces. We'll talk about what we mean by spiritual in this context and how it's different from, but also connected to, the legal immunity you might have heard about in the news or on TV shows. Then, we'll explore where this immunity comes from. Spoiler alert, it's not from any earthly court or government. It's from something much bigger, much more powerful. We'll talk about this higher power or universal law that grants us this immunity and why it's so much more reliable than any human-made law. But we won't just stop at the theory. No, we're going to get practical too. We'll look at how this spiritual legal immunity plays out in real life. We'll talk about those moments when you feel guilty or ashamed or not good enough, and how this immunity can help you break free from those feelings. We'll also discuss how to actually claim this immunity for yourself. Because here's the thing, it's already yours. You don't have to earn it or prove you deserve it. But you do need to recognize it and accept it. And sometimes that can be the hardest part. So we'll go through some steps you can take to start embracing your spiritual legal immunity today. And because I know how powerful this can be, I'll be sharing a simple practice with you. It's something you can do every day, something that will help you really feel and live this immunity. It's not complicated, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it can make a big difference in how you feel about yourself and your life. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about ignoring real-world laws or responsibilities. It's not about doing whatever you want without considering the consequences. Instead, it's about freeing yourself from the unnecessary burdens you've been carrying. It's about letting go of the guilt and shame that don't serve you and embracing the freedom to be your best self. Throughout this video, we're going to be tackling some big ideas. But don't worry, I'm going to break everything down into simple, easy-to-understand language. You don't need to be a spiritual guru or a legal expert to get this. All you need is an open mind and a willingness to see things from a new perspective. So, are you ready to discover the freedom that comes with spiritual legal immunity? Are you ready to let go of self-judgment and embrace a new way of living? Then let's dive in. It's time to unlock the power of your spiritual legal immunity and start living the life you were meant to live. Remember, this isn't just about feeling good for a little while. This is about making a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your place in the world. It's about reclaiming your power and your right to be happy, to be at peace, to be fully yourself. As we go through this journey together, I encourage you to really think about how these ideas apply to your own life. Think about the times when you've held yourself back, when you've been your own harshest critic, and then imagine what it would be like to let all that go. Imagine what it would be like to live with the unshakable knowledge that you are worthy, that you are enough, just as you are. That's the power of spiritual legal immunity. And that's what we're going to explore today. So let's get started on this transformative journey. Your new life, your freer life, is waiting for you. Are you ready to claim it? Now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the heart of the matter, the shocking revelation that changes everything. This revelation is simple, yet profound. You have been granted full spiritual legal immunity. But what does that really mean? Let's break it down. In the legal world, immunity means you're protected from prosecution or penalties. It's like a shield that keeps you safe from certain legal consequences. Now, imagine that same concept, but applied to your spiritual and emotional life. That's what we're talking about here. This spiritual legal immunity means you're protected from the harsh judgments of your own mind. It means you're free from the burden of guilt, shame, and self-criticism that we so often carry around. It's like being handed a get-out-of-jail-free card for your soul. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds too good to be true. How can I just be free from all that? And you're right to be skeptical. After all, we've spent our whole lives being told that we need to earn our worth, that we need to be perfect to be lovable, that our mistakes define us. This idea of spiritual legal immunity turns all of that on its head. But here's the thing. This immunity isn't something new that's being given to you. It's something you've always had, but maybe you didn't know about it. It's like finding out you've had a superpower all along, but you just didn't know how to use it. Think about a baby. When a baby is born, do we say, well, let's see if this baby deserves to be loved? Of course not. We love that baby unconditionally, simply because it exists. That baby doesn't have to earn anything or prove its worth. It's inherently valuable, inherently lovable, just as it is. Well, guess what? That never changed. You never stopped being that inherently valuable, inherently lovable being. You just forgot. You got caught up in the world's expectations, in trying to prove yourself, in trying to be good enough. But all along, you've had this spiritual legal immunity. You've always been good enough, just by virtue of being you. This revelation can be shocking because it goes against so much of what we've been taught. It challenges the idea that we need to constantly improve ourselves to be worthy. It flies in the face of the belief that our mistakes make us bad or unlovable. Instead, it says, you are already worthy. You are already lovable. Your mistakes don't define you. They're just experiences you're having as you move through life. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or that you'll always feel great. Life will still have its ups and downs. But with this spiritual legal immunity, you face those challenges from a place of inherent worth rather than from a place of trying to prove yourself. Imagine playing a video game where you know you have infinite lives. You might still face difficult levels. You might still have to work hard to progress, but you'd approach it all differently, wouldn't you? You'd be more willing to take risks, to try new things. You wouldn't be paralyzed by the fear of failure because you'd know that no matter what happens, you can always try again. That's what spiritual legal immunity gives you in real life. It's not about never facing difficulties. It's about facing them with the unshakable knowledge that your worth isn't on the line. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you are still valuable, still lovable, still worthy. This revelation can be life-changing. It can free you from the constant pressure to prove yourself. It can liberate you from the fear of judgment, both from others and from yourself. It can open up a whole new way of living where you're guided by love and self-acceptance rather than fear and self-criticism. But here's the most shocking part of this revelation. You don't have to do anything to earn this immunity. You don't have to be perfect or achieve great things or even be a particularly good person. This immunity is yours, right now, exactly as you are. All you have to do is recognize it and accept it. Now, you might be wondering, where does this spiritual legal immunity come from? Who's granting it? Well, that brings us to our next topic, the powerful law firm behind this immunity. But this isn't a law firm you'll find in any Yellow Pages or Google search. This law firm is much, much bigger than that. When we talk about the powerful law firm in this context, what we're really talking about is the higher power, the universal law, the cosmic force, whatever you want to call it, that governs our existence. Now, don't worry if you're not particularly religious or spiritual. This concept doesn't require you to believe in any specific deity or follow any particular faith. It's more about recognizing that there's something bigger than us out there, something that operates on a scale beyond our everyday understanding. Think of it like gravity. Gravity is a universal law that affects everything, whether we believe in it or not. We don't have to understand all the physics behind it to know that if we drop something, it will fall. In the same way, this spiritual law firm operates according to universal principles that affect us all, whether we're aware of them or not. This powerful law firm, this universal force, is what grants us our spiritual legal immunity. It's not based on our actions or our worthiness. It's not something we have to earn or prove we deserve. It's granted to us simply because we exist, because we're part of this vast, interconnected universe. Now, why do I call it a law firm? Well, just like a real law firm, this universal force provides us with protection. It upholds our rights, our spiritual rights. But unlike earthly law firms, this one never sleeps, never takes a day off, and never, ever wavers in its commitment to upholding our immunity. Imagine having the most powerful, most skilled legal team in the universe on your side, working 24/7 to protect your fundamental rights. That's essentially what we're talking about here. This universal law firm is always working on your behalf, always affirming your inherent worth and your right to exist just as you are. But here's where it gets really interesting. This law firm doesn't just protect us from external judgments. More importantly, it protects us from our own harsh self-judgments. It's like having a legal team that steps in every time you start to beat yourself up, saying, "Objection! My client is innocent of these charges of unworthiness." Now, you might be thinking, if this powerful law firm is always protecting me, why do I still feel bad about myself sometimes? Why do I still struggle with guilt and self-doubt? And that's a great question. The answer is that while this immunity is always in place, we don't always remember it or believe in it. It's like having a huge bank account, but forgetting that you have it. The money is there, but if you don't believe it is, you'll still act as if you're broke. In the same way, this spiritual legal immunity is always there, but if we forget about it, we won't benefit from it. That's why understanding and accepting this concept is so important. When we truly internalize the idea that we have this powerful universal law firm on our side, it changes everything. We start to see ourselves differently. We start to treat ourselves with more kindness and compassion. We start to live from a place of inherent worthiness rather than constant striving and self-judgment. This powerful law firm reminds us that we are more than our mistakes, more than our achievements, more than what others think of us. It affirms that we have value simply because we exist, that we are an integral part of this vast, beautiful universe. And the best part? This law firm services are free. You don't have to pay any fees, fill out any complicated paperwork, or meet any special qualifications. All you have to do is accept that this immunity is yours. All you have to do is start living as if you truly believe in your own inherent worth. Now that we've talked about the powerful law firm that grants us our spiritual legal immunity, let's dive deeper into what exactly this immunity protects. In other words, let's talk about our spiritual rights. Just like we have legal rights in society, the right to free speech, the right to privacy, and so on, we also have spiritual rights. These are the fundamental, unalienable rights of our soul, if you will. And understanding these rights is key to really embracing and using our spiritual legal immunity. First and foremost, we have the right to exist. Now, that might sound obvious, but think about how often we question our right to take up space in the world. How often do we feel like we're not good enough, not smart enough, not successful enough to deserve our place here? But that's not true. You have the right to be here, to exist exactly as you are, without having to justify yourself to anyone. We also have the right to be imperfect. This is a big one, because so many of us are caught in the trap of perfectionism. We think we need to do everything right, to never make mistakes, to always be on top of our game. But that's not realistic, and more importantly, it's not necessary. Your spiritual legal immunity protects your right to be a flawed, learning, growing human being. You have the right to make mistakes, to learn from them, and to keep moving forward. Another crucial spiritual right is the right to your own feelings. So often, we judge ourselves for how we feel. We think we shouldn't be angry, or sad, or scared. We tell ourselves to just get over it, or look on the bright side. But your feelings are valid, whatever they are. You have the right to feel what you feel, without judgment. You also have the right to change and grow. Sometimes we get stuck in a fixed idea of who we are, or who others think we are. We say things like, "Oh, I'm just not a creative person," or "I could never do that." But your spiritual legal immunity protects your right to evolve, to try new things, to become different than you were yesterday. Now, here's where it gets really powerful. You have the right to love and accept yourself unconditionally. This isn't dependent on your achievements, your looks, your bank account, or anything else. You have the right to look in the mirror and genuinely like the person you see, not because you're perfect, but because you're you. But here's the thing. Even though we have these rights, we often don't exercise them. In fact, we often do the opposite. We prosecute ourselves in the court of our own mind, bringing up evidence of all the ways we're not good enough, all the mistakes we've made, all the times we've fallen short. We become our own harsh judges, juries, and executioners. We hand down verdicts of not good enough and sentences of guilt and shame. And we do this over and over, day after day, creating a prison of our own making. But here's where our spiritual legal immunity comes in. It's like having a brilliant defense attorney who steps in and says, "Objection, this evidence is irrelevant. My client has the right to be imperfect. My client has the right to make mistakes and learn from them. My client has the right to love and accept themselves, regardless of any perceived flaws or past actions." This immunity doesn't deny that we've made mistakes or that we have areas where we can improve. Instead, it reframes these things. It says, yes, you made a mistake. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. You have the right to learn from this and move on, without carrying the burden of guilt or shame. Understanding and embracing these spiritual rights can be truly liberating. It can free you from the constant self-judgment and self-criticism that so many of us are caught in. It can allow you to live more fully, more authentically, more joyfully. But remember, just like with legal rights, knowing you have these spiritual rights isn't enough. You have to exercise them. You have to stand up for yourself in the court of your own mind. You have to be willing to challenge those old, critical thoughts when they come up. It might feel strange at first. After all, we're so used to being hard on ourselves. But with practice, it gets easier. You start to recognize those self-critical thoughts for what they are, just thoughts, not facts. And you start to replace them with kinder, more compassionate thoughts that align with your spiritual rights. Imagine how different your life could be if you really lived from this place of knowing your spiritual rights. Imagine how much more peace, how much more joy, how much more freedom you could experience. That's the power of truly understanding and embracing your spiritual legal immunity. Certainly, I'll continue with the remaining sections of the outline and add a conclusion, maintaining the same engaging and in-depth style. Now that we understand what spiritual legal immunity is and where it comes from, let's talk about how you can actually claim this immunity for yourself. Because here's the thing, this immunity is already yours. It's not something you need to earn or prove you deserve, but you do need to recognize it and accept it. And sometimes that can be the hardest part. So, how do you go about claiming your spiritual legal immunity? Well, it starts with awareness. You need to become aware of the thoughts and beliefs that are keeping you from embracing your immunity. These might be thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve happiness, or I need to be perfect to be loved. Once you start noticing these thoughts, you can begin to challenge them. The next step is self-forgiveness. This is crucial because so often, we're holding ourselves prisoner to past mistakes or perceived flaws. We need to learn to forgive ourselves, not because we've never done anything wrong, but because holding on to guilt and shame doesn't serve us or anyone else. Remember, your spiritual legal immunity gives you the right to learn from your mistakes and move on. Another important aspect of claiming your immunity is practicing self-acceptance. This doesn't mean you think you're perfect or that you never need to grow or improve. It simply means accepting yourself as you are right now, flaws and all. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, regardless of your achievements or mistakes. Now, this might sound simple, but it's not always easy. We've often spent years, even decades, believing that we're not good enough or that we need to earn our worth. Changing these deeply ingrained beliefs takes time and practice. But the good news is, every time you choose self-acceptance over self-criticism, you're strengthening your connection to your spiritual legal immunity. One practical way to start claiming your immunity is through positive affirmations. These are statements that align with your spiritual rights. For example, you might say to yourself, I have the right to be imperfect, I am worthy of love and respect just as I am. Or, I forgive myself for past mistakes and choose to move forward. Repeating these affirmations regularly can help rewire your thinking and reinforce your spiritual legal immunity. Another powerful technique is mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, you can become more aware of your thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. This allows you to observe self-critical thoughts without automatically believing them. You can say to yourself, oh, there's that thought again that I'm not good enough. But I know that's not true. I have spiritual legal immunity that protects my inherent worth. Remember, claiming your spiritual legal immunity is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process, a daily practice of choosing self-love and self-acceptance over self-judgment and self-criticism. Some days it might feel easy, and other days it might be a struggle. But each time you choose to embrace your immunity, you're reinforcing it and making it stronger. Now, let's talk about the best part. The freedom that comes with embracing your spiritual legal immunity. Because make no mistake, this isn't just some nice idea. When you truly internalize this concept, it can completely transform your life. First and foremost, embracing your spiritual legal immunity brings a profound sense of peace. When you no longer feel the need to constantly prove your worth or beat yourself up over every little mistake, you'll find a calmness that you might have never experienced before. It's like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders, allowing you to move through life with greater ease and lightness. This immunity also brings freedom from the constant fear of judgment, both from others and from yourself. When you know, deep in your bones, that you have the right to be exactly who you are, other people's opinions lose their power over you. You become less concerned with what others think and more focused on living authentically. Another beautiful aspect of this freedom is the space it creates for growth and self-improvement. Now, this might sound counterintuitive. After all, if we're accepting ourselves as we are, why would we need to improve? But here's the thing. When we're no longer driven by fear, guilt, or shame, we're actually more able to grow and change in positive ways. We can pursue self-improvement from a place of self-love rather than self-criticism. Embracing your spiritual legal immunity also opens up new possibilities in your relationships. When you're no longer constantly seeking validation from others or trying to prove your worth, you can engage with people more authentically. You can set healthier boundaries, express your needs more clearly, and love others more fully because you're coming from a place of fullness rather than lack. In your work or creative pursuits, this freedom can lead to greater confidence and willingness to take risks. When you're not paralyzed by the fear of failure or criticism, you're more likely to put yourself out there, to try new things, to share your ideas and creations with the world. This can lead to exciting opportunities and experiences that you might have previously held yourself back from. Perhaps most importantly, embracing your spiritual legal immunity allows you to live more fully in the present moment. When you're not constantly rehashing past mistakes or worrying about future judgments, you can be more present and engaged in your life right now. You can appreciate the beauty around you, savor your experiences, and connect more deeply with others. Now, I promised you a practical exercise to help you start experiencing the benefits of your spiritual legal immunity right away. So here it is. I call it the Mirror of Immunity exercise. Each morning, stand in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes, take a deep breath, and say these words. I am spiritually immune from judgment, including my own. I choose freedom today. As you say these words, really try to feel them. Let them sink into your being. If you notice any resistance or self-critical thoughts coming up, that's okay. Just observe them without judgment and gently bring your focus back to the affirmation. After you've said the affirmation, take a moment to think of one way you can honor your spiritual immunity today. Maybe it's by being kinder to yourself when you make a mistake. Maybe it's by doing something you've been afraid to do because you were worried about judgment. Whatever it is, set an intention to follow through on it during your day. This exercise might feel a bit awkward or silly at first, and that's perfectly normal, but I encourage you to stick with it. Do this every day for at least a week, and notice how it starts to shift your thoughts and feelings. Notice how it begins to change the way you move through your day. Remember, embracing your spiritual legal immunity is a practice. It's not about being perfect or never having a self-critical thought again. It's about consistently choosing to align with your inherent worth and freedom, one day at a time. As we come to the end of our journey today, I want to take a moment to recap what we've explored. We've delved into the powerful concept of spiritual legal immunity, this incredible, innate protection that we all have, freeing us from the harsh judgments of our own minds and the world around us. We've talked about the shocking revelation that this immunity isn't something we need to earn or prove we deserve. It's already ours, simply by virtue of our existence. We've explored the idea of a powerful universal law firm that's always working on our behalf, upholding our spiritual rights. We've discussed what these spiritual rights are: the right to exist, to be imperfect, to feel our feelings, to change and grow, and to love and accept ourselves unconditionally. We've looked at how to claim this immunity for ourselves through awareness, self-forgiveness, and self-acceptance. And we've painted a picture of the incredible freedom that comes with truly embracing this spiritual legal immunity. The peace, the authenticity, the openness to growth and new possibilities. But here's what I want you to remember most of all. This isn't just a nice idea or a comforting thought. This is a powerful truth about your existence. You have inherent worth and value. You have the right to be here, to be yourself, to make mistakes and learn from them, to change and grow. You have the right to love and accept yourself exactly as you are right now. Embracing this truth can be a journey. It might not happen overnight. There might be days when it's easier to believe and days when it's harder. But every time you choose to align with your spiritual legal immunity, every time you choose self-acceptance over self-criticism, you're taking a step towards a freer, more peaceful, more authentic life. So I encourage you to start practicing this. Use the mirror of immunity exercise we talked about. Notice when you're being hard on yourself and gently remind yourself of your spiritual rights. Be patient with yourself as you learn to embrace this new way of being. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're all learning, all growing, all working on embracing our spiritual legal immunity. And the more we do this individually, the more we create a world where everyone's inherent worth is recognized and celebrated. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of spiritual legal immunity. I hope you'll take what we've discussed today and use it to transform your life. You have the power to free yourself from self-judgment and embrace your inherent worth. You have spiritual legal immunity. Now go out there and live like you believe it.